My name's Keela, and this is the ins and outs of Dermal Anchors. A dermal anchor is a surface piercing, but unlike traditional surface piercings, it's not connected with a bar below, so there's only going to be one visible piece of jewelry. For example, now, a lot of surface piercings, other than dermal anchors, have the bar that goes underneath the skin, so you have the two pieces of jewelry that sit on top of it where the bar comes out. Whenever you get a dermal anchor, they're actually going to implant a small metal or a titanium plate that's going to be literally that big. It's going to like fit in between your fingernails almost, and it's very, very thin, and off of that plate comes a little cylindrical tube with threads in it, and whenever you get jewelry, what'll happen is you twist the jewelry into the thread. So the skin heals around that, and the only piece that you see if you take the jewelry off is a little metal prong sticking out that jewelry twists back into. Things to consider are obviously one, this is a semi-permanent piercing. If you do decide at a later time that you want to have it removed, you more than likely should go to a piercer to have it removed, or go to a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing, just because taking it out on your own could be very risky. Also, if you decide to take it out later on, your chances of scarring are a lot greater than they are if you decide to take it out while it's still in the healing process. Another thing that you want to think about before you get your piercing done is the location. Some people have issues with, looks that you might get from other people. If you're not one of those people, then go for it. Get wherever you want. If you are, then I would suggest getting it somewhere that could be easily covered up. I chose to get mine done on my chest, not because I don't like the looks that people get, but just because that's where I wanted mine done, and also because if I do decide to get a job, I do know that there is going to be an issue with me having it somewhere on my face or somewhere that's visible. Another thing about location is how frequently the location you choose is going to be bumped up against stuff or hit against something, because that does increase the chance of rejection. Another thing you might want to consider whenever you're getting your piercing is a dermal punch or a piercing needle. There's still a debate on which is better. Some people like the dermal punch better. Some people like the piercing needle better. I got mine done with a dermal punch, and I had no problems with it. I do know some people who say that, if you get it done with the dermal punch, it bleeds less and the healing process is faster. But some people say that who have had it done with a needle as well, so that's really up to you and up to your discretion. Last but not least, whenever picking out jewelry, you should probably start out with something flat so that it doesn't catch, because catching is one of the main things that causes rejection whenever your piercing has been messed around with or tugged on whenever it's still in the healing process. One of the questions people always have, obviously, is does it hurt? That's just mainly because they're gonna, it's always something that people are thinking about is how painful is what I'm about to do going to be. And like I said before, I had mine done with a dermal punch, so I'm not 100% sure how it would feel with a piercing needle, but I would assume that it's not too much different. With a dermal punch, mine basically felt like if you were to take a pencil eraser and twist it onto sunburn. I know you probably haven't felt that before, but if you can imagine what that would feel like, just kind of like a little bit of like an irritated spot almost. That was when they actually broke the skin. That's the first step. The second step was when they created a pocket for the jewelry, and a lot of people find that painful. I didn't feel that part at all. Like, I felt nothing during the part. It could have been from the adrenaline rush that I'd gotten from the first step of the first process. The third thing they do is they put the jewelry in, and that was probably the most painful part for me, just because there was a lot of pressure, and I think that's probably the most painful part for everybody, just because it's basically like, even though they create a pocket and everything, they create it to be kind of tight-fitting so that the jewelry fits in there well so it doesn't fall out, and so it's almost like a little bit of stretching and pressure, and it isn't very comfortable.
All in all, though, it was probably the least painful piercing I've had, and I've had my nose pierced, my belly button pierced, my ears pierced, my cartilage pierced, etc. My dermal anchor has definitely been the least painful of all of them. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say either a 5 or a 6 in pain.
After you get your piercing done, your dermal anchor is in and everything, you're leaving the place. At first, you may not know any pain at all, other than, maybe a little soreness, some redness. Other than that, you really shouldn't notice anything until later, a couple of hours afterward. It may swell a little bit, may not. Everybody's different. But swelling, redness, tenderness, soreness are all very common side effects of getting your piercing. None of it, unless it's bleeding a lot. Pretty much, it's pretty self-explanatory. It heals up pretty well today. The bleeding should stop about 30 minutes afterwards. If it keeps on bleeding and there's a lot of blood, I don't mean just a little blood around the outside, but I'm like, they're dripping, then you want to call your piercer. You might want to take it back there and have at it. Other than that, the healing process, if it's not snagged on anything, should be at least 6 months before you should change anything, but it's going to only take a couple of days even for it to heal. My piercer changed my actual jewelry until it's been healed for 6 months. Mine, I'll let you guys see it. It's this, see here, 8 days, and there's no crusty, no redness, no any, and it should be like that. After the 3rd or 4th day, if they're still bleeding, or if there's any crustiness, then you should definitely either consider going back to your sir, or even going to a doctor just so they can check for it, because if it is infected and your body's starting to reject it, and you're going to want to have it taken out before your body actually does reject it to minimize scarring. Rejection is something that happens not a lot of the time, but it's not too uncommon with surface piercings. Whenever you do have a piece of metal planted in your body, there's always the chance that your body's going to think that it's invader, or that something going on that shouldn't be there, and your body's going to push it to the surface, or it's going to push it down, also where they get migraine from. If it's starting to reject, you'll have pussy stuff around it, or it'll be really red or discolored, and it'll probably bleed, and it'll be very, very sore to touch. This normally only happens whenever you don't take good care of it, or you snag it on something and it's pulled really hard enough to where it's disturbed the piercing itself, and your body's not going to heal it. Instead, it's going to reject it. Things that you should keep in mind while you're healing. You do need to clean it. You would any other piercing with salt water. Obviously, the unanodized salt, very, very, very diluted with water. Just keep it clean. You're not going to want to get a lot of soaps on it like that when you're showering, and if you do, then you're going to want to clean after you get out of the shower. My piercer told me that loofahs are the death of all surface piercings, and they are. So are the, terry cloth and washcloths and stuff. Anything that's very loose, has thread off of it, if it catches, it can pull it right out of your... I've heard that it's really painful, and God, that hasn't to me yet. Other than that, healing process is pretty simple. I took a Tylenol the night before I went to sleep after it done and everything, and I slept through the night. I sleep on my stomach, so even sleeping on my chest and everything, I had issues. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night with blood down my chest or anything like that. No issue. People do decide that for the first couple of days they'll put a piece of protective gauze over it. Again, be very careful with that. You don't want it to snag, but they'll put a piece of gauze over it and take every so often to clean it and bandage it and all that. So if you want to do that, that's up to you, but I didn't do anything to mine other than clean so often with saltwater spray that I had left over from my belly button ring, and that's pretty much it. If it does get to, you do have a very high risk of rejection. There are a few websites and piercers who have reverse reject, they claim to know how to reverse
rejection. I've never really heard any of that to be true. I've never really had any experience with that. But yeah, other than that, the ins and outs of surface piercing. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to post them, and I will answer the possible. Thanks.